It's the grandson of Right Thought. Welcome to the School of Marvelous Light, little flock of laters. Today is a very important message. So get your notepad, get your pen, because it's going to be a lot of information we're going to be going over. We're going to be delving quite deep into a few matters today, so we can get deep understanding of what Abba is calling us to do right now. Now, we've been called out and selected out. That's why we call it the little flockulators. You see, we're the little flock. We're called out to be made into new creations out of what we used to be. You see that today, little flock? Out of what you used to be. Or as he said, called out of darkness into his marvelous light. Do you see why it's called the School of Marvelous Light here? And while I'm talking to the little flock, you see how everything I do is very well connected? You see? Because Abba said, let everything be done decently and in order. So when he does something, you don't think he does it decently and in order? Of course he does. He establishes a matter. That's why he says, out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let a thing be established. You see? To make it sure. So we've been called out into a new identity, a nation of kings and priests. You see? Called into a newness. Well, when you're called into a newness, that means that you have a new state of being, a new mind state, or as the scriptures say, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. You see? The corruption that you once lived in is put off and the incorruption is put on. Well, what is the incorruption? We're all well versed in the filth and in the corruption. We know what that is. But what is the incorruption? How do we walk in the incorruptible? Well, one of those things that we have to do is to look back at the past of our forefathers that came before us and see what was the error that was done. What takes a king out of his kingship? What removes him out of his place and what puts him there? You see? So what will take him off the throne and what will also put him on the throne? You see? And Abba gave us a great example in a man named Joseph, which we will get to at the end of this message. But just remember that we mentioned Joseph, okay? Because Joseph was taken from a low state into a very high elevated state. You see? The second in command to Pharaoh. Now, in our world, Pharaoh would be Yahusha. Joseph would represent being second in command to Yahusha. You see that there? You see that? Only subject to the head of the house. That's what Joseph was. He was only subject to Pharaoh. You see? But he was chosen to do what? Well, what did he say? He said, with the evil things that you did to me, my brothers, God meant it for good because many were saved. So Joseph was chosen to save. You see that, little flock? So what were you chosen to do? What does Yahusha do? He who saves. So what were you chosen to do? You were chosen by who? I told you, all these people walking around calling themselves the chosen ones, the chosen. All you have to do is ask them who chose you, because they should be ready and happy to tell you who chose them. You see that? So if they don't, then it makes you kind of wonder, well, you say you're talking to the chosen one, so who did the choosing? You see that? But us of the little flock, we know who chose us. You see? So let's go to the book of Genesis, chapter 38. The book of Genesis, chapter 38. We're going to read about a man, Judah, Yehoiada. You see that? We're going to read about a circumstance that brought what we call shame to his life. All right, then? In other words, removes you from your throne. You see, the scepter is in Judah's hand. So what will remove you from that status? Well, let's read and see. Got your notepads and pens ready, fellas? Genesis chapter 38, we're going to start at verse 1. And it came to pass at that time that Judah went down from his brethren. So that would be like a member of the little flock. Listen good. A member of the little flock. We're all sitting there chilling. Then one of the lambs or one of the sheep gets up and walks away. He says, I'm about to go down here and see what's going on in this other little area over here. Well, let's see where he goes. Let's see. It says he went down from his brethren and turned into a certain Adulamite. You notice it says a certain Adulamite. We're going to get into the meanings of every single one of these names and places. And by doing so, it will reveal what actually is going on here. You see? Because there's a surface, but we know that we're not to judge the surface of what we read or see or hear, but to judge the intent. What is the intent of what Abba's showing us here? By saying Adulamite, by saying he left his brethren. You see that there, little flock? And turned into a certain Adulamite, whose name was Hirah. And Judah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Shua. And he took her and went in unto her. And she conceived and bare a son. And he called his name And she conceived again and bare a son. And she called his name Onan. And she yet again conceived and bare a son, and called his name Shelah. And he was at Chezib when she bare him. Okay, there, little flock, this is what I mean. The world doesn't make any connections there about anything significant happening, but it is very significant what is happening here. First of all, Judah left his brethren. I told you about the sheep leaving the little flock going to somewhere else. And he went to Adullam. And he went with an Adulamite. You see that there? What does Adullam mean? That's the point we want to get here. What does Adullam mean? Adullam means, let's get it. It means Malates. Don't worry, we'll break that word down. Malates, lanker, luxuriousness. Is it starting to unveil itself to you, little flock, where Judah went? Where do men often like to go? To a place where you can party, have fun, spend up some money, show off that you got some money, be draped in lavishness, luxuriousness. You see, little flock, how Abba's hid that in just by saying Adulamite? So Judah went to his friend. Now, his name is Hirah, correct? All right, so now we know what Adullam means. It means luxuriousness, lanker. You see, and we're going to get those definitions of those words so you guys understand what they mean as well. That's why I said get your notebooks and everything. Hirah comes from the word chawar or chavar. You see that? Which means to grow white or pale. To grow white or to grow pale. What does pale represent? Well, did you read the book of Revelation? What happened to Miriam, matter of fact, when she hated her brother Moses, when she spoke evil against them? What happened to her skin? She became white. Isn't that what's written? Unclean is what that represents. Pale represents death, or to grow dead, to become dead. Do you hear it, little flock, or do you hear it? Do you hear it? In Revelation, it says that there was a dude named Death. And he was riding on a certain type of horse. What kind of horse was he riding on? What did it say there, little flock? Ding, 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 ding. See how this shit connect like Legos? Don't it? It always does. So we know that pale represents death, right? So his friend is named to grow pale or white, to become white or pale. You see that? The mark of uncleanness is to become white, like Miriam did, as leprous as snow, it's written. So going to this luxurious place, you see, full of Maltese and Lanker, will do what to you? What did we just discover here? It will grow you white and pale. In other words, it will make you unclean and cause you to die. Do you see that, little flock? Do you see it? So let's get these words Maltese. Let's get Maltese first, and the other word, Lanker, so that you guys understand this. Maltese. Okay? Maltese is an unnatural softness or yieldingness of a bodily part or organ. Do you hear that today? A yieldingness of a body part, unnaturally doing it. Now we're getting more depth into what's going on here. Do you see, little flock? Maltese is the word adulam. See? It says his friend was a, what's Havar mean? Was a to grow white, pale. That's his friend's name. And he is an Adulamite, which means he's from luxuriousness, because that's what luxuriousness does to a man. Maltese and Lanker. We're going to read it. See? Maltese, an unnatural softness or yieldingness of a bodily organ or part. So what would fornication be? A malady, wouldn't it? So you see how this place is all about luxuriousness? It's all about fornicating? Because what do you do in lavish parties? What is synonymous with parties? Those two exact things, drinking and fornicating. You see that today? Kings don't do those things. You see how we're talking about how he's making us into a new image? And he's going to use this to tell us how we were changed out of the image he made us into the image of a beast. He's telling you how. You left the little flock, see there? All like sheep have gone astray. And you went into luxuriousness. You went into maladies. You went into using your body unnaturally. Just fornicating, connecting your body to harlots, doing all kinds of wickedness. We're going to see that here as we keep reading. You see that, little flock? So that's maladies. What about Lanker? Lanker means lack of energy or vitality, sluggishness, lack of spirit or interest, listlessness, stagnation, physical weakness, or faintness. Do you see this, little flock? That also is adulam, Lanker. So after you've done the luxurious partying and fornicating that you've done, how do you feel? You feel Lanker. See how it go, little flock? Ain't that cold how I would do that in one little word? It's not about a geographical location, is it? No, it's not. You see that today, little flock? It's about a state of being. It always is, because what is I am? The state of being. Now, when you add that to it, you say what state of being you are in. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. See what I mean? So after you're done doing the fornicating that you do, you have Lanker, lack of energy and vitality. When you waste your vitality like the prodigal son did. Do you see how the messages are all connecting? The one from yesterday, the one from before yesterday, how they just keep connecting to tell one big story. Can't you see it, little flock, how that's being done? You see? All right. Luxuriousness, remember, was the word of adulam. Luxuriousness means wealth as evidenced. Wealth as evidenced. What is faith? Okay, then. As evidenced by sumptuous living. What did the prodigal son did? It said he wasted his substance on riotous living. Do you hear it, little flock? It's the same story, isn't it? Like I told you, little flock, it's all the same. Prodigal son wasted his vitality. You see? That's what he wasted. His life force energy. Partying, getting drunk, fornicating, having sex, and wasting his seed. We're going to see it. All right, so you guys with me here? All right. What else to say about luxurious? The state, you notice it says the state, see? The state of being rich, state of being. What did I tell you? See there? The state of being rich and affluent, having a plentiful supply of material goods and money. So then if you have those things, who do you serve? Do you guys remember the movie 300 when he was trying to entice that one handicapped soldier to turn and to show him a sneaky way to get behind those soldiers? And he offered him money, women, wealth. Do you see what he offered him? And then when he went in to see Xerxes, he saw the Baphomet sitting there. Baphomet means a natural use of your sexual parts, just like we just read. So this is why God says there was a Canaanite. Now, what did Christ call Canaanites? Well, there was a Canaanite woman, Greek Syrophoenician, who came to Yahusha and said, help me, help me. And he ignored her. See how you got to do? See how you got to do? He ignored her. Do you understand it now, little flock, why he did such a thing? What did Rebekah tell her sons, Esau and Jacob? I do not take a wife of the Canaanites. Do you hear it, little flock? The Canaanites are all about luxuriousness. They serve mammon. They worship the Baphomet. So do not connect to one of them type of women. Don't do it. You'll find yourself in a world of hurt. She'll be trying to call your sons her daughters and trying to call your daughters her sons. She'll dress your boys in a skirt and think it's okay. So do you really want to join with her? Do you see how it's always about that? All right, then. I'm about to walk over a freeway, y'all, so it might get a little bit loud. So y'all just bear with me here. Just bear with me. All right. Now it says the oldest boy's name was correct? He was the firstborn. What does mean? See how we doing this, little flock? What were the results of when he went? That's what we're seeing. He went to this place with his so-called friend. We know his friend is death. See, that's the friend that's saying, let's go party. Let's go do this. How do we know he's death? Because his name means to grow pale. There was a pale horse, and he who sat on him was named what? Alrighty then. Alrighty then. You see that? So the first fruit of that relationship is means to rouse oneself or awake. Do you hear that, little flock? To rouse oneself or awake. So what happens to you, brother, when you see that woman up there on a stripper pole twerking? You become aroused. You become aroused at the riches. You become aroused at the lifestyle, the luxurious lifestyle. You become aroused at the good-looking woman, the outwardly appearing good things. That's what arouses you. So you see, that's the first son. That's the first thing that happens to you, is you get aroused by something that you see and you desire it. Woo! Do you see that little flock right there? How I'm doing that there? Okay? To rouse oneself or awake. That's what means. Now, what is Onan, who was the second son? What does Onan mean? Onan means vigorous. So now that you've gotten aroused, what would you call the act of sex? You have to get aroused first, and once you get aroused, you start having sex, you call that vigorousness. Don't you? Uh-oh. Vigorous. So after you get aroused, you become vigorous. Isn't that right, little flock? Isn't that how it goes? Before I tell you the name of the third, let's just see if you can already see where this is going. Once you get turned on, let's just use sexual release as the example. You get turned on first, you become vigorous. That's so that you can release the energy. And then once you release the energy, you have a rest or a period of ease, or what they call a refractory period. Correct? Let's see if that's what the third son's name means. Let's see. The third name was Shalah, correct? Shalah means to be quiet or at ease. Can you see that there, little flock, or what? Can you see it? Because I know that I do. To be at ease. Isn't that the way the sexual energy works? It awakes you, you get aroused, and then you vigorously do the act. And then after you do the act and you're done, you are at ease. That's what Judah did. Because that's what this is about. It is about your energy and how you're using it. He's already using it wrong because he was led by death into a place that was about luxuriousness and partying. I'll give you all the wealth, all the women, because that's what mammon does, you see? And he was enticed by that and aroused by that, and he gave in, and now he's bearing the fruit of it, you see? Now let's see what the fruit of sin is. We're just going to continue reading here. Oh, wait a minute. One more word. She bare them, where did it say? Keseb. Is that what it said? That's what she was when she bare them. Keseb means to lie or to be a liar. So death lied to him and told him that he was going to get something good. His friend that went with him. But he deceived him. If you eat of the fruit, what's going to happen? You'll die. You see how this is connected here? Do you see it? Do you see it? So it means to lie or to be a liar. That was a lie, what they did. Him and that Canaanite woman. You were not supposed to be with her. So then you lied when you did it. You see that there? All right. Now, and Judah took, verse 6, back to the scriptures. And Judah took a wife for his firstborn, whose name was Tamar. What does Tamar mean? It means palm tree or post. A palm tree or a post. A post is placed like this sign here, this stop sign. It's a stop post, which means it's posted there to let you know to stop. You see that? So that palm tree is posted there so that you know where to come to stop and be judged or to get judgment. How do we know this? Because we're going to read in Judges here about palm tree, okay? Which is what Tamar means. Tomer. That word means palm tree. Why? Because there's some judgment going to be going down on Judah because of what he did. See how that goes? And what specifically was it? It was about a woman, that Canaanite woman. Don't bear no seed with her. You see that? But you did. So you're going to be judged for doing that. So it's about the woman. So let's see if this is about a woman judge, this palm tree that is. It's about a woman judge. Let's see. Let's see here. Jump real quick to the book of Judges, chapter 4. We'll start at Judges chapter 4. We'll start at verse 4. Okay. And Deborah, a prophetess, the wife of Lapidoth. So Deborah, a prophetess. See that there, little flock? A woman who's a prophet. She judged Israel at that time. See, a woman judging. Judged Israel at that time, and she dwelt under the palm tree, the Tomer. See? She dwelt there under the palm tree of Deborah. See that there, little flock? Deborah means a bee. You see that? A bee. She judged Israel at that time. By the way, just a little side note, that's my mother's name, Deborah. See how that goes, little flocky? She dwelt under the palm tree of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel and Mount Ephraim, and the children of Israel came up to her for judgment. So that was a post to let them know that that was the place to go for judgment, the palm tree. So you notice that girl is named Palm Tree because she's going to represent Judah's judgment for what he done. Okay there, little flocky? Okay there? Because we now know what was really leading him. He was being led by death, which is red. That's why when Esau came out, his mother said, I call him Esau because he's half dead, half pale. He's pale, he's half dead. See, that's what his mother said. See how it's connecting? And they called him Edom, which means red, because he represents death. Esau does. He is the end of the world. See what I mean? So Esau's world is all about luxuriousness. It's all about lust. It's all about fulfilling your desires, or red, in other words. You see? Okay. So Judah took Tamar, which we now know means palm tree or place of judgment. And we now know that that represents something to do with femininity or the female energy. See? Because that's what he wasted his energy on, that Canaanite woman. See that there, little flock? And Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord slew him. So what happened to What was the penalty? He died because he was wicked. So then why did you waste your time humping and bearing that fruit? It was vanity, wasn't it? I told you, the end of sin is death. It said he went with his friend, Pele. He went with his friend Death and went to a luxurious place and met there a luxurious woman, a Canaanite, and laid with her, and the children died. Well, let's see. We know one of them did so far. So it was vanity. See how I'm saying there, little flock? And Judah's firstborn, was wicked, he died. And Judah said unto Onan, so the middle boy, go in unto thy brother's wife and marry her and raise up seed to thy brother. So what does he tell Onan to do? To fulfill his kinsman's redeemer role. See? To redeem the seed back to your bloodline. So you have to go take that woman that was your brother's, but he's dead now. Take her and bear up seed so that you can still get the inheritance. You see? So let's see what Onan does. And Onan knew that the seed should not be his. And it came to pass, when he went in unto his brother's wife, that he spilled it on the ground. Spilled it in the Hebrew means to waste. See there, little flock? What did he spill on the ground? Do you see, kings? Do you see, kings? So he laid with her. He had sex with her. But when it was time to bust that nut, he pulled it out and spilled it. And the Bible calls that wasting it, to do wickedly and to destroy. And isn't it? If there's life in that thing, and you can see because it produces children, what happens when you just waste it on the ground? See how it goes, little flock? You see how it goes? Well, let's see what happened with that. He said, and the thing which he did displeased the Lord. Uh-oh. So was it pleasing to Abba that he pulled out, or did it displease him? It displeased him because he was told to bring seed. Because that's what it was given to you for, to bring seed. You see? Y'all see that, little flock? So the thing displeased the Lord. Where we at here? And wherefore he slew him also. Verse 10, sorry, y'all. Wherefore he slew him also. So now Onan's dead. Then said Judah to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, remain a widow at thy father's house, till Salah, my son, be grown. For he said, lest peradventure he die also, as his brethren did. And Tamar went and dwelt in her father's house. You see how I meant? I said she represented judgment. She came around, and then all of a sudden, all of those guys started dying. Because they were wicked. Because they were not to be. You see that, little flocky? So now he's being judged. So now he has one son left. He said, well, he's too young. So I'll give it some time. And when he's ready, then y'all will be married. You see that? So let's see what happens here, little flock. And in process of time, the daughter of Shua, you see that? The daughter of Shua, Judah's wife, died. See that? The daughter of Shua, Judah's wife, died. Now, what does Shua mean? Let's get Shua. Shua means a cry for help. Do you see that, little flock, or not? A cry for help, or riches. It can be translated riches as well. See that? So a cry for help or riches. That's the father of the daughter that Judah married. You see that there, little flock? A cry for help, because that's what happens when you get connected to something you shouldn't be. Isn't that what happened? You cry for help. All right then. You see how this is all going? You see how it's all connected? All right. So let's see. And in process of time, the daughter of Shua, Judah's wife, died. And Judah was comforted. So now the wife has also died. So the woman he was so turned on by is now dead. See how it's all vain and vanity? Her and the kids are dying. There's only one left, that's Salah. But the rest are all dead, even the wife. You see that there, little flock? And Judah was comforted and went up into his sheep shearers to Timnath, he and his friend Korah the Adulamite. Do you see that, little flock? So now he goes, after he's comforted from his loss of his wife, now he goes with his friend, who we know who his friend is now, don't we? His friend Death. He takes him and his friend, and they go to the sheep shearers. Now, if it's not Death that's going with him, let's see if he does some more Death shit. Let's see. And he went to Timnath, he and his friend Harah the Adulamite, and it was told Tamar, saying, Behold, thy father-in-law goeth up to Timnath to shear his sheep. And she put her widow's garments off from her, and covered her with a veil, and wrapped herself, and sat in an open place, which is by the way of Timnath. For she saw that Salah was grown, and she was not given unto him to wife. So you see that there? She's like, okay, he's grown. You still didn't give him to me. What's going on here? Because Judah's worried that if he give him, the dude might die. So he's procrastinating. You see that? But she still want to have children. She still wants to do womanly things. You see that there? So she's like, give me what's mine. But when Judah saw her, so now Judah's there. He sees her dressed as a harlot. You see that there? When Judah saw her, he thought her to be a harlot. See, little flock? Didn't I tell you where that Death was with him? He's about to do some more Death shit. So what is he doing now? Now he sees a harlot. The woman whose feet take hold of hell. See there, little flock? Because she had covered her face. And he turned unto her by the way and said, Go to, I pray thee, let me come in unto thee. Let me come in unto thee. Let me have sex with you, girl. Man, you look good. Let me have sex with you. He don't know it's Tamar. He don't know it's Judge. The palm tree, the judgment. He don't know that. He think that's some harlot, you see? Because he still hasn't got himself right yet. As you can see here, he's still wasting his vigor, his vitality, as we read. He's wasting it on harlots. He's spending it away, just like the prodigal son did. I told you it's about becoming a king again. He came back, he put a ring on his finger and a robe on his back when the prodigal son returned. That's kingly attire. Let's see here, little flock. Let's keep going. And he turned and said, Let me come in unto you, for he knew not that she was his daughter-in-law. See, he just didn't know. And she said, What wilt thou give me that thou mayest come in unto me? What you gonna give me in exchange? Just like a prostitute do. Okay, you wanna have sex with me? What you willing to give me? You see how that worked? He said, I will send thee a kid from the flock. And she said, Will thou give me a pledge till thou send it? In other words, you don't have it right here. How do I know you're gonna give it to me after we did the deed? That's what she's saying. You might just get it and dip off and leave me high and dry and don't give me nothing for what I gave you. I need a pledge. I need something to hold on to until you give me the gold. You see that there? Now, what is Baphomet? He's always there when you use your energy unnaturally. See, like he is with a prostitute. The scripture says don't do that. Well, he's doing it. So you see the goat is there? The Baphomet is there? Don't you see it? Little flock, little flock, little flock. Ain't it something? Ain't it something? So now, he said, What pledges shall I give thee? He said, Well, what you want? And she said, Thy signet, thy bracelets, and thy staff that is in thine hand. And he gave it to her, and he came in unto her, and she conceived by him. And she arose and went away, and laid by her veil from her, and put on the garments of her widowhood. So what happened? So he laid with her. He gave her his signet as a pledge. He gave her his bracelets and his staff that he carries as a pledge. He says, okay, I'll come back and bring the goat. Now give me that thing I want. You see that there? And Judah sent the kid by the hand of his friend, the Adulamite. So then who took the goat? Death did. You see that, little flock? He didn't go do it himself. Why do you think he didn't take the goat himself? Because he didn't want anybody to know that he was paying a prostitute for her services. He wanted to do this deed in the dark, secretly. See that, little flock? See that? All right. So then he asked the men, okay, so Judah sent the kid by the hand of his friend the Adullamite, to receive his pledge from the woman's hand, but he found her not. So now he couldn't find her. Then he asked the men of that place, saying, where is the harlot that was openly by the wayside? And they said, there was no harlot in this place. Well, I don't know what you're talking about. And he returned to Judah and said, I cannot find her. And also the men of the place said that there was no harlot in this place. See that? And Judah said, let her take it to her, lest we be shamed. Stop right there. Lest we be shamed. Now remember that word that means hara, which means to grow pale or to grow white. It's to grow white and grow pale with shame. Do you understand? It also means with shame added. So do you remember when Miriam turned white and she was ashamed and was put out of the camp? And Abba said, if a father had spit in his daughter's face, she should be ashamed at least 7 days. Ashamed? You see how it's going there? You see? So that I don't be ashamed, he said, then let her just keep the stuff. Let her just keep it so we don't make no issue here. You see? And it came to pass about 3 months after that it was told Judah, saying, Tamar, thy daughter-in-law, hath played the harlot, and also, behold, she is with child by whoredom. Y'all see that little flock? So when he laid with Tamar, she got pregnant. You see how I saw about his judgment? Now you can't hide what you've done. It's been made manifest what you've done. Let's see what Judah does in response to this. Let's see. And Judah said, bring her forth and let her be burnt. Look at that response, little flock. When a man does some sexual sin, let's see what David did. There was a man that had 1,000 sheep. The man that had one. The man that had 1,000 sheep took the man's sheep that only had the one and killed the man. What should happen to this man? David said, that man should be killed. And Nathan said, that man is you, David. Now here is Judah here, David's forefather, caught up in sexual sin. You see how it's going? You see how it's going? Does it change? Is it different? Or is it the same? It's the same. You see that? So he said, she needs to be burnt. David said that man should die. Burnt, die means the same thing. They should be put to death because she had did some sexual sin, is what Judah's saying. You did it too. Do you see the woman that was taken in adultery? They wanted to stone her. Do you see how it's there over and over and over and over again? Do you see? And when they see their own sin, then they refrain from killing. David saw his own sin because Nathan proved it to him, and so he refrained himself. Judah refrained himself. We're about to see it. We're about to see him do it. You see? From saying, okay, yeah, burn her. No, you're not. You're not going to burn her because you got filth too. Those men refrained themselves from stoning that woman because they had sin too. You see what I mean? It's about a king. David was ashamed of his sin. And so death was looming. So he prayed for it to come up off of him. Blood guiltiness is wearing on me, Father. Get it off me. Read it and see. Read it and see. But Abba had grace and left him a king because he could have removed him for that. But he didn't. He had grace on him. You see that? Because to the gracious, God is gracious. Did David give Saul grace and didn't kill him when he had him dead to rights? He sure did. And he said, and what did Saul say? You are more righteous than I am, David. Watch that word right there. You are more righteous than I is what David was told by Saul because he gave him grace. Now watch this here. Watch this here. And let's see if it's the same thing. All right, so he says, let her be burnt. When she was brought forth, verse 25, she sent to her father-in-law saying, by the man whose these are, am I with child. So she has some items there. She said, whoever owns these items that I have is the father of this child I have. Let's see what the items are. Y'all already know what they are, but let's see what they are anyway. It's confirmed. She said, discern, I pray thee, whose are these? The signet, the bracelets, and the staff. And Judah acknowledged them. They're mine. See that? She said, you're the baby daddy. Imagine his shock in front of everybody that's looking at him right there. Let her be burned. The baby daddy owns these items. Shit, that's my items. Shit, I'm the baby daddy. Let her be burned. No, never mind. Don't worry about getting burnt. Don't worry about that. Let's change that. Let's change that. See how it goes, little flagullators? See how it going? Let's see what he says here. And Judah acknowledged them and said, she hath been more what, little flock? More righteous than I, because that I gave her not to Salah my son, and he knew her again no more. He didn't lay with her no more after that. You see it, little flock? You see it? Now, it came to pass in the time of her travail that, behold, twins were in her womb. And it came to pass when she travailed that the one put out his hand, and the midwife took and bound upon his hand a scarlet thread, saying, this came out first. And it came to pass as he drew back his hand, that behold, his brother came out. And she said, how hast thou broken forth? This breach be upon thee. Therefore his name was called Pharez. And afterward came out his brother that had the scarlet thread upon his hand, and his name was called Zerah. You see that, little flock? She had twins from Judah. You see that there? And he was judged of his sin and his iniquity, and he saw it, and he humbled himself, just like David had to do. And it's always about sexual sin. So now we need our example. Well, if you just turn to the next chapter of the Bible, who are you going to see mentioned there? That would be good old Joseph that I mentioned at the beginning of this message. Do you see that, little flock? Now, what is Joseph mentioned doing in that next chapter of the Bible? Him and Potiphar's wife. What did Joseph do? He was being allured consistently over and over and over again. He's being enticed. He's being enticed to lay with this woman that belongs to another man. So he's being enticed to sin and follow death. But you see, what does he do? The same thing I said on the other video. He fled fornication. Do you see it, little flock? That's why it's there next. Because it's giving you what will happen if you flee. What happened to Joseph when he fled? He was elevated to that high status. Do you see it there, little flock, or not? So because he refrained himself and he fled fornication and he ran the other direction, he was elevated. But we see that when you go and you give into it, you die. When you give into what? Wasting your vitality, your vigor, your strength through squandering it. You see, with strange women. Is that not what we just read? Living a riotous life. I told you there are two things synonymous with partying. It's drinking and fucking. Those two things are synonymous with a good party as far as people are concerned in the world. Well, that worldly people are trying to drag you into that lifestyle so that you can waste your vigor and die. That's the only reason they're doing it, so that you can waste away and die. But Joseph showed us what will happen if you flee it, if you run from it. You see that today, little flock? So now all my brothers that are held captive to these things, what does that mean you got to do? It means you got to flee. It means you got to turn and you got to run. You got to do like Joseph did. If you want to sit on that high throne, that high position of glory, you see that, little flock? If you want to sit on that high place of glory, then what you got to do? You got to keep yourself from the unclean things. You see that, little flock? So if I were you, I'd focus my energy on keeping myself from the unclean things, so that I am not ashamed, so that I do not turn pale and die. See that, little flock? So it's time to tighten up, brothers. It's time to tighten up. Stop wasting your vigor. Stop wasting your vitality. Stop wasting your life force energy. Stop letting that bitch that sit on many waters drink it up, drinking the blood of the prophets. She's been drinking out the vitality and the strength of all of us, as you can see through David to Judah to all of us. We've all been gone astray and left our brethren and went down to that luxurious city looking for a good party. You see that there, little flock? But once you resist, he can no longer extend his hand through that void to contact you and to affect you anymore. Once you resist him, he shall flee from you. You see, little flock? So don't call him your friend, that pale one. You see, that white one? Don't call him your friend, because there's a reason he's pale. You see, little flock? Silawam Israel.